Okay, we're going to take a look at what we're going to learn next week. And what it's called is solving systems of equations by substitution. Before we learned about elimination. And if we go back to elimination, we would have them both lined up, right? AX plus BY equals C. And we have our X's lined up, our Y's and our C's, and then we would just add down. And that is one method we can do as long as we arrange it in the right order. Well, if it's not in that order, there's another way to solve for it. And I'm out today. So who comes to take my place or replace me is a substitute. And substitution is the same idea, okay? So when I look at an equation, like in the first problem, I have two equations here. My goal is to try to find one equation that has a isolated y or an isolated x, okay? On this problem, I have an isolated y, and I'm going to highlight it so you can see it. So if you want to write this in your notes, go for it. If you have a highlighter, go for it. If not, it's okay. You can just darken it or bold it. Then I would like you to put this in your notes. So find a spot at a page where you're going to do a couple practice problems so you're ready for Monday, and it won't even be that difficult to learn the concept on Monday. Now, what does y equal? If I was to ask you, what does y equal? Hopefully you would tell me y equals, just read it, 6x minus 11. Let me autofocus that. So if I asked you, what does y equal? You would say 6x minus 11. So I'm going to take this 6x minus 11, and I'm going to put it in the second equation. And where would I place this parenthesis of 6x minus 11? Well, I know 6x minus 11 equals y, so I'm going to put it where the y is. So this concept isn't too crazy, so I don't want you to overthink it. I am going to put this parenthesis right here, and I'm going to rewrite that bottom equation. So the bottom equation is negative 2x minus 3, but I'm not going to put y. I'm going to put 6x minus 11 equals negative 7, okay? So we crossed out y basically, and we replaced it with what we know y equals. Now you have to solve this equation just like you know how to. You're going to solve it for the variable of x. Your first step, you're going to distribute. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18x. Don't forget your negatives. Negative 3 times negative 11 is positive 33. And then we'll put this negative 2x on this side equals negative 7. Now we know our steps. We're going to go ahead and combine like terms. Negative 20x plus 33 equals negative 7. Now we're going to move all of our constants to the right. Our constants need to get out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. I get negative 40. And this goes down here. We know our equation skills. Divide negative 20. Negative divided by negative. I'm going to get x equals 2. Now this is the easy part. Super easy. Before, when you had in elimination, when you had an x, right, you would go back and you would plug it in for x and you would solve it for y. This one's even easier. You're going to plug it in, but you can plug it in right here for x. So you can even do this in your head mentally. You can go 6 times 2, right? I know I'm not doing it in my head, but basically that's what you're doing. You're replacing the x here. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 minus 11 is 1. So y equals 1. Again, we plugged in 2 here. 6 times 2, 12 minus the 11 equals y. Y equals 1. How would you write your answer? Like that, okay? 2, 1. And that's where those two lines connect. Okay, let's go ahead and do another one, and I may ask you a couple questions during this problem, so pay attention. So, am I going to use the top equation for substitution, or can I use this bottom one? As I see the bottom, I see this is isolated, and I'm going to plug it all in right there. Well, what am I going to plug in right there? What that equals. Okay, so now I have 2x minus 3 x minus 1 equals negative 1. If you don't know what I did right there, I rewrote this equation. I rewrote the top one, and then I put this x minus 1 in where the y is. All right? Now, I want you to solve this equation and get me an answer. Hopefully, you were able to solve it. I got negative 1x plus 3 equals negative 1. Subtract 3, I get negative 1x equals negative 4. I divide the negative 1, I get x equals positive 4. If x equals positive 4, and I plug it back into my parenthesis, y equals 4 minus 1. And there's your answer. Okay. Super easy. But now, let's talk about the ones that are a little goofier. Let's look at this one, number 5. What does y equal? Oh, actually, this one's pretty easy. I want you to try to solve this one. What does y equal, and where are you going to place it? Basically, you already have half your answer with this answer. Isn't this your x and your y? You already have your y. It's right there. Y equals negative 2. All right, go ahead and solve the rest of it. If you did that properly, you had 4x minus 3 times negative 2 equals 18. Positive 6, 4x plus 6 equals 18. Subtract 6, 4x equals 12. Divide 4, x equals 3. Now you're going to have problems like 7 and 8. It says to solve by substitution, but what does it lend itself to? It's easy. You know it's elimination. So I don't really like problems that do that to you, that you know you can just solve it with elimination. It's easier that way. But we are going to prove to you that you can do that even though it's set up for elimination. If it said to solve it by substitution, you should show your work with substitution. So here's the deal. Your goal is to get either a y equals something or an x equals something. And if I look at my two equations, I can tell the second one lends itself to easily for me to get the x equals something. Because what am I going to do? All I have to get rid of is this negative 2y. And how do I do that? Can I just add this over here? So now I have x equals 2y plus 11. And I just changed this equation by moving it over. Always hit pause and rewind if you didn't see what I did there, because I just crossed that out. Now I have my x. Where am I going to put it? Where the x is. Okay? So go ahead and plug this in right here, and go ahead and try to solve that and give me an answer. I'm going to quiz you on this one as well. And if you don't know what you're doing, you plug it in. Again, we're going to learn this on Monday, but you guys should probably have a good idea of what's going on. Like terms. Then I'm going to add 77. Negative 16y equals, if I subtract that, I think that's going to be 64. I know 16 goes into 64 4 times. Y equals negative 4. If y equals negative 4, I plug it in here. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 plus 11 is positive 3. So your answer would be 3, negative 4. All right. Why don't you try number 6 on your own? Real quick, number 6, and your answer should have been 2, 3. And now why don't you go ahead and try number 4 on your own? And your answer should have been negative 4, positive 3. All right, guys, hopefully this video helps you, and we'll be ready to rock on Monday.